we go. We're live on Facebook. Gonna go live on Instagram. Checking connection on Instagram. Hopefully my Instagram's gonna like me enough. Guys, Instagram is just like, it is not my friend. Oh, hey, there we go. You went live. Okay, but we can't see Matt, so let's turn it. Oh, pause due to poor connection.
Oh, no.
Oh, well. Okay. Well, our Instagram people, hey, Instagram, you might be in and out because my phone is telling me, oh, well. We'll welcome Instagram back when Instagram feels like showing up. So I was just telling Matt, Instagram's not my friend. I don't feel like I understand Instagram. Maybe I hear that Instagram is like the young person platform.
Right.
And I don't know what that says about me, that I am not friends with Instagram.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway. So hello, Facebook world. I'm Rachel Holdaway from On Pitch Performing Arts, and this is
Matthew Tsay from the Comedy Loft.
Yes.
Welcome to this live stream.
We're super excited about this. So Matt is the director.
Yeah. I'm one of the main managers up at the Comedy Loft, and we primarily do short form improv, but depending on when you come, every now and then we'll dip into long form and stuff. So come
Love
on
it. That's great. So many improv activities. And at the end, we're going to let Matt plug in all of the upcoming stuff that you have at the Comedy Loft. So it'll be awesome.
Thank you.
But we've been doing this series, if you haven't seen us yet, called Ask the Experts, where we're just addressing different topics of the arts. We've done, we did one on stage combat. We did one on involving your whole family in the arts. Next week we're doing one on choreography and dance callbacks.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's super fun. So people can just send in your questions. So tonight we're talking about improv.
Yes.
Which some people find scary.
Yeah.
it's a real thing.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions about improv, we have some questions that Matt's going to answer. But if you have something, just type out a comment. I can't see all that far away. So I have my computer here, and hopefully we'll see your comment on it.
Fantastic.
But we'll just get started with the first question. So
Perfect.
What is improv, Matt?
Improv is the idea of being in the moment and effectively writing whatever you're going to say on the spot. And I say writing, but it's mentally writing. So
you're writing as you're talking.
Absolutely. And I know the idea of improv can be very daunting, but essentially it's what you do every day in real life, because you don't anticipate let's say you're leaving the house and your postal worker is out there and it's do I say hello? Do I try to ignore him? Do I pretend that I didn't see him?
Am I nice today? Am I mean today? What type of person am I today?
Exactly. And all of that is improv. Whether you say something or not, you've chosen to do something on the spot. And it's when you put it that way, it's a lot easier for people to be I'll give that a shot. Because
I can live my life.
Absolutely.
I can talk to the mailman.
Absolutely.
I can talk to my husband.
Definitely.
We hope anyway.
Yeah.
So I think I've been part of an improv group for a year now, and I don't remember which one of us made this observation, but most of us are parents. Oh no, we're all parents in that group. So one day, somebody was kids are great at this.
Yes.
If you want to see some good improv, just watch a 5 and 6 year olds playing on the playground, because they're running around and then suddenly out of nowhere they're like, "You're the bad guy and I'm the police officer and I'm chasing you."
Yeah, definitely. Their ability to just come up with a game.
Yeah, exactly.
Just out of nowhere and come up with rules where it's this didn't work, so what if we did this? And then they're let's do that. And then if you break this rule, you have to sit in the corner with some bucket on your head.
Right, and you can just see these hordes of little children going, yes!
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome. Which leads us into one of the questions was are there guiding principles of improv or rules per se?
Yeah. Depending on who you talk to, there's lots of different kinds of rules, but I stick with 2, maybe 3 main ones. The first one is you have to listen. Listen to your like fellow players, listen to your fellow like people as best you can. What they're saying, what they're not saying, how they're saying it. Because one of the main guiding principles that we hear all the time is the idea of yes and.
Which is what little kids are great at.
Exactly.
Yes and.
Yeah, to be able to take this idea and build onto it. But we can't yes and anything if we don't hear what we're trying to yes and. We can't say yes to something without knowing what it is. We can't and something without knowing what that first step is. So listening is the biggest thing. Because without it, you might as well just be doing stand-up. Right. It's like you're up there with someone else, but if you're ignoring them, it's just, okay, this is my idea. And then that like takes away some of the magic of improv.
Right.
But after that, it's that idea of, okay, once I've listened, once I know what's going on, it's time to be confident enough to put my own idea out there. I think of any improv scene, and I'm stealing this from my good friend Calvin, and my first teacher in improv. But it's the idea that every time you start a scene, you're putting a brick down. It's as though you're building something. You can think of it, like visualize it physically as a brick. And then, okay, you put a brick down. Now I'm going to put another brick down.
Oh, okay.
So then, and that's why it's called yes and, because if I've listened to you, but I just say yes to your idea, but I don't add anything, then all the pressure's on you. It's as though I'm
I still have a brick.
I'm supervising you putting all the bricks down. And I'm like, oh, that was great form putting that down. Put another one down. Yeah, but it's like, as a part of improv, it's all about working well as a team. And so then you do your part, I do my part.
Right.
And I make sure that I share the burden, the privilege of improvising.
It feels like a burden though. Like if you're part of a team and like you're laying down a brick and then you look around and you lay down another one and another one, like by the time you get to brick 10, it feels a little bit like a burden.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like one of the hard things is that, like, let's say you're doing like a really long set, a really long scene. Then you end up with 10 bricks down, and you have to take into consideration all those bricks. Because if you contradict something, like I've seen this before where it's like someone earlier in the scene called someone else Jenny. And then like 30 seconds later, they called them Sarah. And one of the big things is that as improvisers, sometimes we're caught in the moment and we're like, oh, they probably didn't notice that. But I remember going with a friend of mine who had just seen improv for the first time. And afterwards she asked me, hey, what'd you think? And like, I was racking my brain of like, I liked it, but there's this one moment. And then she was like, oh, when they forgot the name. And I was like, what? This is the first time you've seen this and you knew immediately. So
our audiences are much smarter than we give them credit for, and they're very forgiving too.
Yes.
But yeah, they do notice those things. I think sometimes with improv, maybe a little bit more than like a play, because they understand like it's being created in front of me.
Yes.
Which is what makes it exciting, but it's also what makes them like lean in and go, oh, you called her Jenny. Okay, that's Jenny. Now I know that. Wait.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's like this. I think of it as this. It's sort of like watching professional wrestling, like the and I love WWE. Don't get me wrong, but I know it's fake. Sorry to spoil that for anyone, but like with improv, it's that same like unspoken contract where even if I'm watching WWE and I realize it's fake, I'm gonna suspend my disbelief. And with improv, it's like, yeah, I'll believe that this person is Sarah when I already know this person's name is actually Rachel or something like that. But then when I break that, or if I walk through a table that I imagine was there,
a pantomime table,
then I've broken that contract with the audience. And then it's like, okay, what can I believe now? And then they
my trust is shattered.
Exactly.
No, it's true though. Okay, so for summarizing like our guidelines for improv, the first one was listen to your scene partners.
Yes.
And then yes and.
Yes.
So you accept whatever your scene partner just said to you.
Yeah.
And then you add information of some kind. Okay. Absolutely. So if you're approaching improv, those are the first two things you do.
Yes.
Which I love the yes and principle.
Oh,
I'm just going to elaborate for a minute because it makes it so much less scary. It makes it so much less scary. If you're doing it with like a group of people that you know are just going to be like, you said it's winter, so yes, it is winter.
Yes.
Then it's not intimidating to just step out and be like, it's winter, guys, because you know they're going to accept that rather than stepping out and being like, no, it's not, it's fall.
Right.
Which is what makes it, you feel like people are going to do that to you. I mean, really, it doesn't happen very often that people just reject what you say. So you can say whatever you want.
Absolutely.
And people will be like, sure, that's true.
Yeah. And like, I would say like the final thing to sum that up is just the idea that whenever you're on stage, your goal is always to make who you're working with look like a genius. So even if someone made a mistake, you find a way to answer that question for the audience so that whatever happened, they're good.
I love that. It's just like improv. I didn't used to like improv at all, guys. But now because of stuff like that, it kind of gives me warm fuzzies. Because it's like, oh, we're just supporting each other. Yes. We're just making each other look good.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
So we have another question of, are there different types or forms of improv?
Yes,
it's like
definitely. Most
people, and I was one of these, think like, oh, whose line is it anyway?
Right.
That's improv. So is that the only?
No, not at all. Like whose line is it anyway is what they call short form. And like the way I define it is essentially how long you get to play a character. Because like if you're doing a whose line game, you might get to do your best Christopher Walken impression, but you might only get to do that for like 30 seconds. Yeah. Whereas there's long form as well, where you get to do, essentially, it's almost as though you're making a play up right before your audience's very eyes. You get to play characters for longer. You get to do all sorts of moves that in short form you might not be able to, because it's sort of like an Etch-a-Sketch where you play a game and then it's over and then you move on to the next one. Whereas in long form, you can go back to, oh, that first scene, that ties in perfectly with this 10th scene. How do I show that connection? Because when you can do that on the fly, it's magic. Like I've done it a couple times, and it was like every time the audience is like, what? What just happened? How did you do? Was that?
And that's when they have those moments where they're like, you didn't make that up.
Right.
You guys scripted that. And that's when you know you did long form really well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. I love that. Actually, long form is my favorite. I didn't know until last year there was different types. And I think that's why I wasn't a fan of improv, because like you watch whose line is it anyway. And you're like, you guys are so funny, and you're just like on the fly, and like I'm not a witty one-liner person. But then if you discover like these different forms, there's something for everybody in improv.
Absolutely.
We're going to take your chair and like hop this way so that you're more in our Instagram. There we go.
Sweet.
Now we can see Matt better.
Hello.
So short form is just like, and the games you play in short form only last like 4 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes,
like
maybe.
4 or 5 minutes tops. There are some that end like a minute 30 in, and that that usually just depends on the players. Like sometimes the main principle is you always want to end on a high note. So if someone just has this killer line, it's like, done. There's nowhere else I want to go from there.
It was too perfect.
Yes.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Okay, so short form is short and to the point, and then long form. How long would long form go?
Yeah. I would say like usually between 25-30 minutes for one set. Where it's like, okay, it's like a 25-30 minute one act play, if you will.
That they just make up.
Absolutely. And then like with short form, like you said, it was like somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes per game. And then you could end up doing like maybe 10 games in a full night of short form. Yeah.
I don't know. I still feel like short form is scary. So my improv group that I have done, we do long form. Because we like being able to play the same characters for longer periods of time. And I think part of that's because then we don't feel that pressure to like come up with something new. It's like, no, we found this, we can play this. But yeah, short form still kind of scares me. Which leads us to our next question.
Mm-hmm.
So we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but we'll see if we have anything else you want to say. Most people do find improv scary or intimidating. Even people who have been in like 100 plays or are very comfortable on stage, improv is very intimidating.
Yeah.
So what advice would you have for people who just think improv?
Yeah, I would say that like that cleverness, that wit, it's not something that's like when you see your favorite players, they didn't start that way.
They didn't like magically come up with
Yeah, I mean,
this.
There are some people who may have more natural ability there, but I mean, for instance, when I started improv, I was like the opposite of the type of person you'd expect to do improv. I was the kid who, in my 4th grade yearbook, like everyone has their professions, like firefighter, policeman, and mine has certified public accountant next to it. And so you know that I had everything
Which
planned
are
out.
very important people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially this time of year. We all need our CPAs, right?
Definitely.
But yeah, you don't think, an accountant should do improv.
Absolutely. And I remember like the pivotal moment was like in high school, I was up for like a role in National Honor Society.
Okay.
And they said, okay, you're up. In a minute, you're gonna do a speech. And then once I heard that, I heard nothing else because I was planning out exactly what I was gonna say, how I was gonna say it. So like up to there, or like I would do anything, I'd plan everything. I would say, okay, I'm gonna order it in this way, and then I have less questions. I would do all these things. I would call for pizza, and then say these exact things. And so everything was planned until I got to improv. And that was 8 years ago, and it was terrifying. It was just like, okay, I'm going to go to this workshop, and then all these people are so much better than me. And that's the feeling. And then it's like, oh, maybe this isn't for me. But then you step out there, and that first moment, it's terrifying, but you do it. And then it's like, oh, I did that, and I'm still alive. And then it's just a matter of like doing it over and over again. And I know that's not like that's not the best thing to hear, because it's like a little masochistic. Right. But it's like you start to learn techniques that make it a lot easier. Whether you're doing short form or long form, it's like, okay, these are things that make it easier. Like for instance, knowing the other person in the scene, where it's like, okay, if we have history, then the scene can be a lot more like emotionally rich than if we're strangers. Like we can still do great scenes as strangers, but these are all like little things where it's like, once you have that, the next step is easy. Then once you have this, the next step is even easier.
Right.
Yeah,
because I mean, improv, just like all theater really, is about relationships and showing those relationships to your audience.
Absolutely.
And if you have, especially because it's not scripted, you know, if we're in a play, it's scripted, we have a rehearsal process, we have time to build that like a personal relationship.
Exactly.
But in improv, you're just there. So if you're doing it with a friend or like whoever that you already know, it's easier to have that dynamic right off the bat.
Definitely.
Awesome. So your advice for people would be to just do it because it's fun.
Yes. Yeah, it's a blast. I mean, when I first started, I remember doing a scene with one of my heroes, because I was watching him in the shows, and he was brilliant. And then finally in one of the workshops, he was there, and I was like, oh my gosh, am I gonna? And there's that like imposter syndrome where it's like, if I go up there, am I just gonna ruin it? And it's like, but then you realize like the better they are as an improviser, the better they'll be able to handle anyone. They'll be able to work with anything. So then when I got in there, he made me look really good. And I was like, how did you do that? How did you make people laugh?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I like bullet points, so I'm gonna bullet point this for you.
Okay.
Just try it. You might like it more than you think.
Absolutely.
Maybe find a group of friends who all want to learn about improv and learn together. And then maybe find a coach or somebody more experienced who could come and interact with you and do some scenes.
Definitely.
Give you confidence, teach you the guidelines, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Three things of advice, guys. I love it all.
Definitely.
let me see where we're at with our questions. I want to make sure just that we cover everybody's questions.
Great.
How can people get over their initial fear of performing improv? Kind of just do it, right? Till it's not scary anymore.
Yeah. And I think like the biggest thing there is realizing that if you go to a free workshop or something, everyone there is there to learn, and they'll know if you're new, and they will help you. I mean, I find that the best improvisers are the ones that they don't have that ego.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be like, oh, I don't want to get up there with you because you're new. They'll take it as a challenge. It's like, yeah, I'm getting up there with you because you're new.
I can make even you look good.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Awesome. Oh, and this is for you. So if people wanted to get involved in improv, say in a workshop,
Fantastic.
how might they do that, Matt?
Yeah. Well, at the Comedy Loft here in Ogden, you can come out. We have free public workshops from 7 to 8 every Saturday. And after that, at 8:15, if you like what you saw, then you can come see our show at 8:15 to 9:15, and they have like another show at 9:30 for you night owls out there. And like the scheduling for that, it depends on the day. We like to encourage like new troops to perform. We like to encourage anyone who has maybe like sometimes like magic acts and stuff like that.
Fun.
So then keep an eye on our Facebook page, and we usually post like all our programming there. So come on out and give us a shot.
Love it. And if you want to check out their Facebook page, if you're on Facebook, then we tagged the Comedy Loft in the status above the video or below the video, or however it works on your particular device.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go check out the Comedy Loft page and like that for more updates on what's going on there. But basically Friday nights from like 7 to 10:30.
Saturday.
Oh,
yes.
Saturday nights from 7 to 10:30. People can just come hang out at the Comedy Loft.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Definitely.
And I've come to the Comedy Loft workshops, and just to give y'all an outsider, I had never been here before, and I'd never like done a public workshop with anybody. And I really enjoyed the Comedy Loft and the approach to the workshops because it was very supportive. Like people obviously knew that I was new. And yeah, you didn't feel any sense of like, oh my gosh, who is that person? Like it's a really great supportive atmosphere for people who just want to come try it. And if you choose to just sit and watch the workshop, nobody like gives you a hard time about that either. Because I definitely, like the second time I came, they played a game and I was like, I can't do that, I don't want to do that. So I just like sat. And one of the other players came up and was like, no, it's gonna be fine. You just come with me, it'll be good. And it was. So the Comedy Loft is very supportive, and you'll have a great experience here.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Rachel.
You're welcome. I'm just gonna check really fast and make sure that we don't have any comments that came in on the video or any questions.
Okay.
I don't want to ignore anybody's question. I think we got them all though.
Okay, cool.
Okay, we're great. And if you think of a question, go ahead and leave it in the comments and we'll send it over to Matt. Awesome. And Matt will answer it in the replies.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, thanks for joining us for our Ask the Experts video.
Thank you so much.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Facebook. And yes, we're gonna end.